have the greatest job in the world, and that's working with dogs.
Best in Show winner is the French Bulldog.
Winston won the National Dog Show. It was amazing. It was exciting. And to have a dog to be #1 dog in this country, you have to have great nutrition. And I always fed Pro Plan. Just like us, when we eat well, we feel good. And I just love that food and what it's done all these years to all the dogs I've bred and all the dogs I've shown.
Welcome to Pure Dog Talk. I am your host, Laura Reeves, and you guys, I'm really excited. We have been remiss in having one of my most favorite, most celebrated guests back on the show in the last little while. So, without further ado, Dale Martenson, breeder of Touché Japanese Chen and a variety of other breeds, now an AKC judge. Whoop whoop! Since the last time you were on, it's awesome. And I tell you what, guys, I'm so excited for this conversation. You remember I just had Nancy Talbot on not too long ago talking about sporting dogs and really breed-specific things about sporting dogs. And Dale made a social media post not long ago that really caught my attention because I am that person he was talking to. And his comment was, all you can see is the ugly feet on a peacock, you're missing the point when it comes to the toy breeds. And I loved that. I thought that was just a genius way to kind of discuss an entire group of dogs that it really helped me. So, hey, Dale, super glad you're back.
Oh, it's so great to be back and always good. And I loved your ones on the sporting dogs too. It was fantastic. And, each group has its core demographic and the dynamic. It individual, and toy breeds are all about the breed type.
It is, and it's so important. So I want you to walk us through that post you made and why you made it, kind of what triggered this in you, because everything that we, make a post about, something triggered it. So talk to us about that.
Well, so I've had my moment of frustration, and when I hear people say, when they're talking about either how they judged a group of dogs they were judging, or if breeders, when they're evaluating their puppies,
right.
And all they're talking about is the faults. And all they can see when they're looking at this beautiful flock of peacocks is a bunch of ugly feet and crooked toes running at them. I'm like, you're missing the point of this breed and all of the work that goes into the details that make these breeds so hard to raise and so intricate and so desirable. So I think the biggest insult somebody can give you is that you were generic. And, because there's nothing about the toy dogs that's generic. And we have a whole lot of very breed specific type that you have to get into and start pulling apart. And I think it opens your eyes, even going into other groups where you go, wow, that is so hard to get that type.
And Dale, talk a little bit about, because this is the struggle that I have. I admit this freely, and I have shown an awful lot of toy dogs, not nearly as many as you. But to me, type is important, but they have to make it to the food bowl. Like, there's got to be some level of soundness, right? And so that's what's always going through my head. So talk me off that cliff.
Well, if you're cute enough, somebody will bring you food. And they do not need to get their own food. That doesn't matter. There is we want health, but the thing is, it's kind of like if I was to go up to somebody and say, you're going to judge my breed at a specialty, and I'm going to give you three, and you know nothing about my breed. I'm going to give you 3 things about this breed. And if you go in there and if you nail these 3 things, if I say you're going to find something that is refined, symmetrical, with a nose inside its face, if you go in there and if you do those, you will end up with the better animals to the front of your placements. And that's the thing is with the toy dogs is are like back in the day, the American Kennel Club had a scale of points where they would break them down and they'd say, this many points for eyes, this many points for this. And it was very helpful in some ways. I mean, some people probably took it a little too literally and were doing like a little scorecard. But in all reality, when you go through and say, hey, this breed says 65 points for head, ears, eyes, and tail, wow, that's a chunk of points, right? You know,
Mhm.
I mean, you
Mhm.
don't have a good one if you don't have that.
Right.
And so, I mean, these toy breeds have very specific things in each of them that you can't get away from. You, if you don't have those, you don't have a show quality specimen. You
Mm.
have a dog that's irrelevant to the people who like the breed.
Oh,
and
good.
and I mean, that's, there you go. You know, I mean,
Mm.
if you go put up a large toy breed dog because you say, oh wow, look at him move, and everybody in the breed's going, yeah, keep on moving, it's like he killed my bitches. Jane Martenson said that sometime. I said, oh well, that's a nice enough dog. She said, he'd kill our bitches. Like, well, yeah, okay, there you go. But you know, it's what, that less is more, and
Mm.
that's part of what makes these breeds of type
Mm.
so hard. And that's why we go ahead and we become a little bit, like axe murderers when you miss our type, because we're trying to get markings,
Mm.
we're trying to get size, we're trying to get very specific things in tiny litters
Mhm.
with a lot of mortality and a lot of, I mean, so it's like you got the best puppies in the whole world, but we don't have the, in Japanese gin, we don't have the good fortune of the pointer where it says
Right.
good pointer can't be a bad color. Well then, okay, you're
Right.
good then.
Right. And I think that that's really important. And it goes back to what we always talk about, when we're doing education on our own breeds or when we're learning about other breeds. What was its job? Well, the Japanese chin, for example, we'll just stick with chins for a minute. Their job was to be really pretty.
Hang out with the geisha, very quietly sit there and kind of sit with their little best friends and say, oh my gosh, she's gotten fat. I mean, just being that snarky little best friend and not really liking anybody else and kind of like, oh yeah, hi, that kind of thing. And that's what they're all about. But, and that's it's kind of like these hallmarks of these breeds that are so important, and limit your litters so
Mm,
much.
right.
I'm telling you, you could have every single other thing, but if you don't have one of those deal breaker things, you're out.
Well, and it's what I mean, I remember talking to you the very first time I had you on the podcast and we talked about your breeding program in Japanese chin. And at the time you had something like 500 champions. And I'm like, you have two puppies at a time. Like, how do you do this? Warriors have 12. I don't even want to think about it.
And we add to our gene pool so slowly with that,
Mm.
and we won't, sometimes you won't, it'll take you years to get there, and you can get derailed so easily. Like you'll be like, wow, I've got it all, and then all of a sudden, man, I got this perfect dog and it's so wonderful.
Mm,
But he makes white laced ears, he makes a half mask.
mm.
Wow. Like, well, it doesn't matter beyond that, because, and I know I'm going to offend a lot of people, so just send your letters to Laura, not to me. We are not judging breeding stock. We are judging a dog show. This is a runway show, whether you're Versace or whatever. This is a show, and these dogs are judged to the standard how close they are. We're not going, are they going to free whelp? Are they this or that? That's not where you're there. You're to judge for perfection to the standard. The breeding end, very important, mind you, but that involves pedigrees, health testing, that involves a whole nother, as these are the dogs that we're taking to the show, and they need to fulfill that standard and be iconic to the breed that they want. Everybody who wants that breed wants that dog, and that's what they're really about. It's not like oh well, she's big enough, she'll have more puppies. No,
Mm.
mice have babies, that's fine. She can be small. we don't care, and we're judging them for how they stack up to that standard. And maybe in some larger breeds, there's more of that, Stockman attitude as far as that. But we are there with our one polished up little prize to show off, and
Mhm.
that's what it's all about. It
I
may or may not. Anybody who specials a toy breed female is on a total ego trip
mhm,
because they are burning up all of her good young eggs,
mhm,
and they very likely will not get puppies from her and don't care because they feel she's so wonderful that the breed deserves to see such quality.
mm,
You that's really, it's such a commitment to your
mm,
breed that
mhm.
you're like, I'm going to sacrifice the breeding because she may not breed at that point.
Right.
Trupanion is revolutionizing medical insurance for pets by providing the best possible experience to our members. And it's not some space age dream, it's happening now. We pay your veterinarian directly while you're checking out, and we're the only ones who can, which means you have decisions in seconds, and you don't have to wait for reimbursement. So, unlike with other providers, you'll keep more money in your pocket. Ask your veterinarian if Trupanion can pay them directly, because there's pet insurance, and then there's Trupanion.
So here's just a completely off the wall curiosity question. One of the things that we talk to people about, breed it or show it, right? I've had this
Right.
conversation with people, and the recommendation often comes down, show it, fine, but breed it first. And so is that something that you find to be a viable option in your toy breeds? Like, you have Cavaliers as well. You've been
No,
involved with a lot of these breeds. Is that a thing?
toys are children of summer. They come into bloom, and they come into that, and I mean, and they look lovely, in that first
Mhm,
bloom. And
mhm,
that's really the time when they are, I mean, after that, especially like the Yorkshire Terriers,
mhm,
every cycle Yorkshire Terrier has, the females get lighter and
mhm.
lighter and lighter. And I
Interesting.
mean, it's like when you start talking to the Yorkie people and you think of all the breeds that went into the Yorkie, the blue pattern, the running gold, the all of the myriad of things that go into the ear shape and
Mm,
size and
mm,
all of that. I mean, these people are hard, and they'll start out. Those dogs have to break the collar. They'll start out with the little tan spots like little bitty Rottweilers, and those have to
mhm,
clear. And what if they don't clear? Well, then you may have invested 2 years in something that didn't clear. You know, I mean, and so these are things that, it's such a huge commitment. And so when somebody tells them, "Oh, well, this one moved stronger," well, they want to just kill them with a comb, you know, because it's like, you don't get what we're doing here. And even then, at that point, what as an end result is when judges are not aware of what is desirable in the breed, then people, it's like, who want that want to get these toy dogs, they don't want oversized,
mhm.
even if there's not a DQ. That's the whole point of toy.
Right,
Nobody's saying toy, but I'd really like it to be close to 50 pounds if I could. No, 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 no. The whole idea is we want to put two or three of them in a bag and still have it be less than
right,
20. You know,
right. You want to be able to carry it over your shoulder and nobody know it's there. And
exactly.
I,
Hilton.
I take these arguments really well. Like, this is really good and it's thought provoking for a lot of people, not just myself. And so let's talk about some of the others. And I'm just going to randomly throw out, you're judging the whole group now. You can help me with this. So let's think about some of the breed details. And I'm going to pull out Cavalier King Charles Spaniels because I know you're involved with them, and English Toy
Yes.
Spaniels, right? And the breed details that makes one and one not the other one are so critical. So let's kind of do a compare and contrast to help people understand how small those details are. I mean, besides a dock tail and not a dock tail, you know what I'm saying? Like, head details and all those things matter, even when they are distantly related.
Well, not even so distantly. They're sister breeds. I
Yes.
mean,
I was
they
trying to.
they were bred together up towards like World War II. So I mean, that's like not
Okay.
that Charlotte wasn't involved in that. That's
Mm,
not fairly. Um, so, but the breeds went different directions. There's different skull size.
mm,
There's different shapes. You know, the even down to the English Toy Spaniel has a conjoined toe, which is a very desirable
oh,
thing that they're like their little toes are fused together. You know, they have oftentimes like now in Europe, of course, they're not largely shown undocked, but in the States, they've been docked pretty steadily. Part of that is they usually have a little kink in their tail, which is probably a pretty good spot to think about docking it.
interesting.
Um, and all of these things, cavaliers are actually allowed to be shown with a dock tail. You can still show a cavalier with a dock tail. I mean, I haven't seen one in many years. My
New
original cavalier
information.
bitch had a
Okay.
dock tail, but
Hmm.
not common. But they've gone different directions,
Mm,
and so I mean, you have a breed that's similar, but yet not the same. And that was kind of interesting, like was when you could get both head types in one litter. So
really?
half of your litter would be undershot,
Fully
half of your litter
brachycephalic?
would have a scissors mouth
Huh.
because they act and you will get throwbacks in those breeds. But those shared common roots, they have all the same colors.
Right.
They have, the coats are roughly the same, but the ET definitely gone for more of the brachycephalic
Right.
head.
Right.
The lower set ears, the more pronounced skull. The Cavalier is more of the moderate spaniel,
Hmm.
and so I mean, and once you've been around them, yes, they're alike, but yes, they're very different,
Right.
and which is kind of so whenever you see uh, really good English toys and they've got not too big because they really should be smaller than Cavaliers,
Correct. Right.
and we sometimes will see some pretty big ones
Mm.
because our all-rounder judges kind of like them because they're faster and you know they're not as zippy a show dog. So the racing around the ring thing doesn't apply to that breed.
No. No.
You know, like I say, with the Cavaliers, you get into and they start talking about, can you have a really good Cavalier without the melting expression? Not really. Not really. Not even a pet. People that want pets, they want that. They want those double pigmented eyes, and they want that sweet, sweet, sweet look. Those ears right across the top of the
Mm.
head. They want that very, very. I mean, and where the English toy is a bit more reserved, not quite as outgoing. Cavalier's all about outgoing.
Yeah.
I mean,
The tail has to
all
wag.
it must be in constant motion.
Yeah.
Those are one of those little things in there
Hmm.
where they have to like you. The English toy, they have to tolerate you. You know, but but the Cavalier, they should be wanting to go home with you.
Hmm.
And those are the things that about that, and those are the people that not just show dogs, people that have the breed. That's what they like about them.
Right. Right.
And so I think I think it's a really important thing that breeders, while we're off on the track of we wanting the red, white, and blue ribbon,
Hmm.
and judges while we're awarding in there, we want to make sure that we're placing animals that are desirable for their purpose and for their people and for their followers. Make sure that we're promoting the right temperaments, the right type, you
Hmm.
know things that are so breed specific, and we can get lost on just structural integrity and fall of foot.
Hmm.
And there are many breeds that is everything, but can you have a really good min pin with a low tail set and without the hackney gait?
Well, and I think that's a really, really important point to bring up is to look at something like a min pin where the gate is defining. Like
It's
it is
fine
that gate is what it is.
and incorrect for almost any other breed,
Mhm.
like
Frighteningly
terrible.
important.
Right. And like with like with the chin or the peak, where those feet are going to be turning slightly out,
Mhm.
is actually more correct than straight ahead, because they want that extra with the body. And when those animals are standing, they need to turn those feet out to balance them,
Support. Hmm.
support. And I mean, is it as attractive as the straightforward feet? No, not really, but it's breed specific and correct.
Right.
And that's, I think you kind of have to do the deep dive and
Right.
find out what it is that they really really like.
Right.
I like those standards where when I've read them through and I feel like, wow, I get it. Like
Hmm.
I know dog,
Hmm.
I know what they're wanting and the importance that they're putting off, and they will sometimes very nicely in a polite way say what they are not going to do.
Mm.
You know, I mean, the Lhasa Apso, where they're chary of strangers. Translated, they might bite you if you
They're
push
gonna
them.
bite you. Yeah.
You got it coming if you didn't read the standard.
Well, you know what? You can learn that in pet grooming lands.
Oh, that not the truth? Is
It
that
is
not?
absolutely the truth. Some of my least favorite pet grooming clients were Lassas. It's true.
I I think once you go into your breeds where you can start to do it, like the last thing you look at should be what you pick on.
Hmm.
So if you're going to look at heads,
Hmm.
last thing you do is pick them up,
Hmm.
because if the one with the best head and the overall best type is not moving as good in the rear, well, okay, don't move it and then put it up. You know, I that I think that a good judge or in a good evaluation should end up on your deciding features.
Hmm.
So I mean, if those are Frenchies, put them up on the table. Feel their depth of chest. Feel the top line. Feel their hams. Feel all of that. You know, that should be your final thing. You know, because those are your breed defining traits.
Right.
And that's when I think when you do that, people they go, oh, that's what they're doing. And I
Mm.
think it's really important as breeders, handlers, judges, super aware that like when we have an opportunity to discuss a dog, rather than say, because I judge people
Mhm.
harshly when they base their opinions and their decisions on faults.
Right. Right. We're always
I want to
seeking.
say I want them to say, yeah, I put that one up because it had way bigger, darker eyes. I put that one up because that fantastic rib cage. I loved this. I love that. And
Mm.
I think when you start seeing the positives, the dogs are better in your mind. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, it's like I find dogs that I love all the time. When I have people go, "Oh, that's terrible entry." No, you didn't look, because there was something in there. It might have been not in the sparkliest, and it might not have shown the best, and it might not have this that, but there was something in there you didn't find. You really have to go in there looking in at the positives,
Mm.
and you'll find your better dogs in your breed.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's truly a sad thing if you have nothing there that is breed, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a whole nother conversation about overall quality throughout the dog land these days, but we're not going to do that today. We're talking about toy dogs. And I think it's really your point is really well taken, because when I move or when I'm judging sporting dogs, the last thing I want to see is movement, because that's what I'm judging my sporting dogs on. And so I think it then becomes incumbent upon judges to decide, am I going to have the same judging all the time, or am I going to make breed or group specific judging, which I think is a really great point to consider.
Absolutely, because if when you are judging something and you're going to have that be your basis
Hmm.
for your final decision. If you've got Labrador retrievers in there and you want to go and run your fingers against the grain of their hair on their side and see if it leaves railroad tracks and see if you've got the big, pretty, thick tails and
Hmm.
all, then that should be. But then don't put up a soft coated one with a long tail. You know, go in there, find out what it is that you're eyeballing, that you like,
Hmm.
that you think is going to be your deciding feature. Like
Hmm.
I think Annie Clark said it best when she said, first you just cut away your dogs of type,
Right.
and then you work from there. But
Right.
without the type, you don't make the cut.
Right. Right. I mean,
Because
it has to have breed type. I mean, none of us are arguing about that. So then my question becomes, and so I'm going to take it from your perspective, saying the dog show is a show. We're showing you the prettiest thing on our display, right? How do you, as toy breeders, prioritize then including soundness in a breeding program where you're also so focused on all the other really minute pieces of beauty? Does it even cross your mind?
well, all right. So, there is value to all of the dogs. All
Right.
of the dogs have value.
Hmm.
That you might have, I mean, I have I've gotten several bitches back that people didn't think were typey enough, or they thought they were too big. Where I use them for breeding, produce best in show winners from them.
Hmm.
You know, maybe they weren't a showpiece,
Right.
but they were something really good for breeding, and they had the pedigree there. That's the whole thing. They weren't a show dog. They weren't inside. I mean, if we went ahead and said because people talk about, there was a thing on social media about parent clubs shouldn't allow dogs with disqualifications to be bred. Parent clubs that should not be allowed vacancy. I'm like, well, lots of toy poodles are over 10 inches,
Hmm.
and lots of chihuahuas are over 6 pounds.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I mean, there's lots of. I mean, when you go, that is a classification for in the ring.
Hmm.
That I mean, those are show dogs, and so they have to fall within the parameters of that standard. Closer they come, but there might be things production wise. You go, well, this is a really amazing dog. I might keep it for breeding. I'm not going to show it, and that's okay. And
Hmm.
I think that's when you
Yeah.
have breeds really. I'm envious of people that have those wonderful dogs that they can do in the field and they
Right.
can do in the ring. They can be production dogs. I mean, you guys got it all going on. We don't always. That's not necessarily the case for us. You know.
So here's another, like my brain keeps spinning all the time. Another question, particularly for Chin, for example, or any Cavaliers to a degree where markings really matter, right? Do
Oh,
you, yeah, I mean, they do, right? I mean, they entirely matter in both of those breeds. Do you breed a dog that has a pedigree or that has another feature that is valuable, even if the marking is off? Do you include it in the breeding program, or do you find that that carries on with you?
so here's that's a super good question. And so you have to find how those are how those are. Like there was a magnificent dog that I just thought was one of the few dogs I really the only thing that I could change about him was I didn't breed him. I mean, he was like a wonderful dog, and I watched him with a great deal of interest because the father had a white head, a clown face as they would call it.
And this is in a Chin?
Uh huh.
Oh, interesting.
And and
Hmm.
so here's the son, beautiful dog, best in show winner, breed at the garden, won a national, lovely, lovely dog. Produce he would, but he was a Trojan horse,
Hmm.
and when you drug him into your breeding program, you were just gobsmacked with bad marking after bad marking after bad marking, and you just it just like it you tracked it through your whole house,
Oh, yeah.
and so that's what I'm saying. Our criteria is such
Hmm.
that no matter how good of a Yorkshire Terrier it is, if it has running gold through its whole coat, it has no value to you. A bad marking on a Cavalier, no value to you. You
Hmm.
know, a half mask Japanese chin, no value. Not even as a breeding dog, and oftentimes the pet people like, no, thanks. I'd like one that looks like in the picture.
Oh,
They,
that's interesting. See, in wire hairs, when we get mismarks, the half face, or we get them occasionally. That's the one everybody wants.
they bring their kids along, and we love that. It's like, oh, good, they brought the kids along, and they're going to pick up something that looks like a little cartoon creature. But yeah, no, it's harder to sell from pictures, and people aren't as quick. I mean, so those not, that's what I'm talking about. That's so when you start to give on markings. Wow, it's bad. It's like you see a little white lacing starting in the ear. Well, then what happens? Then you probably figure there was probably a sibling that had a half white head.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you're breaking down of those genes.
Mm-hmm.
Only talking about 1 to 3 puppies.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. That's such a huge loss if you have 1 or 2 of them with bad markings. And so it's a big deal. That's those kind of things really. They will sideline your whole program. They're as bad as any health concern
Mm-hmm.
as far as the idea of breeding show dogs or times what people even find to be desirable.
Mm-hmm.
Because a Maltese with an unpigmented eye is not an attractive pet.
No.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of these things that are so, the breed specific things of coats and colors and sizes are just very, 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 and it's what the people love about that breed.
Right. Right. It's the same. Again, we have to remember, everybody out there in listener land, we have to remember what was the breed designed to do. And that, in the case of the toy group, all of the beautiful jewels in the toy group was to be a companion and to be beautiful and to appeal to people's aesthetic sense of beauty.
Exactly. It's
Awesome.
it's definitely China, not Corel ware.
And no peacock feet. Let's just not worry about the peacock feet. Let's look at the pretty peacock.
We only deal in positives. There's just beautiful feathers everywhere.
That's fabulous. Dale, I love it. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us again. I've missed having you on. It's just been one of those crazy years and we haven't gotten this done. So I appreciate your time all the time.
So great to be a part of it. You guys do so much good and put so much good information out there. So always glad to be a part of it.
I appreciate you.
Take care.